Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Try to Hit the Pool podcast, where I explore manhood from all angles, but more than that, also self-acceptance, happiness, and finding kind of someone's true self. So I'm here with Buck Angel.
Hi, friend. Hello. Nice to see you.
Just
That's my man voice.
go as deep as possible.
They do this thing on TikTok where these kids are all, this is my voice 1 minute on T. And then they go, this is my voice a month on T. And then I'm like this. I'm like, this is my voice 30 years on T. I still sound like Mickey Mouse. Like, what?
Can you do, I was curious about that, because obviously for male to female, you can do like the vocal cord shortening. Is there a female equivalent of that?
Well, the testosterone actually hardens the vocal cords. So most of us don't necessarily have to you can go to vocal training if you want your voice to be, but I don't care, dude. I actually never cared. People make fun of my voice forever. It's just that was never the most important part of my transition. But I think for male to female, you have to, don't you have to go to some kind of voice training?
You have to, and then you always end up with that weird raspy voice, which sounds like you're in pain every time you talk as well.
My God. And then what happens when you decide you don't want to be a woman anymore?
Yeah.
So your voice is all messed up.
It's like strained. It's a weird one because it's like doesn't really make you sound more feminine. It just makes you sound like you're in pain.
Like a smoker. You've been smoking for I'm a lady.
Well, I guess that is another way to man up your voice, right? You can just smoke like a 20-pack every 5 minutes. Yeah.
Totally. And drink scotch and smoke and you're good there.
That's how you do. So the first question is just a bit about your background and who you are for people who don't know.
Okay, yeah. First off, thanks for having me on. I do appreciate it. And I really do value you as a friend. I consider you a friend. And also your journey has been, wow, so intense. So my name is Buck Angel. I am a female who transitioned to look like a man it's been a little over 30 years now. And I am not a man. I live my life looking this way. And I consider myself more of a transsexual, so I can separate myself from the wingnuts that are like trans. It's not an identity. Trans has become, I'm trans, where we old school, I have a mental disorder. I do never not say I don't. I'm 62 years old. I transitioned at the age of, 30. I'm really solid in this. As you can see, I live, really happy. I'm a happy person. I'm not angry. I was more angry prior to this. So in a nutshell, that's kind of where I stand. I don't deny my biology. I didn't change my sex. I'm in the fight with you, friend, to sort of get kids to stop doing this. And it's not something anybody should aspire to being, right? It's a mental disorder, 100%. Yeah.
So I guess to explore that a bit more is so when you say it's a mental disorder, what do you mean exactly?
So what we call gender dysphoria, I like to call it sex dysphoria because I just hate the fact that we've now separated sex and gender. To me, they're the same thing. And so really, I always wanted to be it's kind of weird. I think about this sometimes now as I get older in my transition. It's like, did I always want to be a man, or did I think of myself as a man? My parents raised me as a little, like tomboy. So I always was more attracted to this masculinity. I lived a lot of my life as a gay woman, but gender dysphoria, I do actually have a diagnosis from an actual therapist when we had to go through a system. So what I mean is it's an actual mental disorder. It is not normal in any way, shape, or form for anyone to want to be the opposite sex, dude. It's like, let's just be on. That's why I think I've amassed a large group of people like yourself and people who respect me and have no.
No, I do. I have a huge amount of respect for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
For me, for what I went through, my thing was definitely linked to a mental breakdown, and I feel like it's not something. It's not normal to want to do it. It wasn't something that I felt. I felt it in bouts throughout my life, but it was usually in moments of lack of control and when that kind of same mental illness resurfaced.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And that's why it's so dangerous to just shove somebody in this space, especially a youngster like you who should not be anywhere near this. And then on the flip side of that, I'm so grateful that you didn't go through hormonal changes and all of the. Were you on hormones at all?
No, so I was prescribed it, and the only reason I didn't really end up taking it is because the relationship I was in was so toxic. I was stuck in this kind of 10 years a slave style marriage. It was really bad. And then I ended up escaping Japan, and at the same time I thought I was going to transition. And it just kind of the idea left me when all of those sort of outside circumstances that were pushing down on me kind of left as well.
Yeah.
And I had it when I was younger, when I was like 16 as well. But
Yeah.
I feel like it was linked to the same kind of lack of control. Like I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do. So I was like, okay, well, I can control this one little thing. And what really scares me about what's going on now is, I think if I was born 5 years later, I would have transitioned when I was 16 for sure. And that's kind of quite scary as a thought, because it's the main reason I didn't talk about it when I was 16 is because we didn't have this mixed up social framework.
That's right.
There was like a couple of documentaries about it, and I remember watching them and being like, oh, this is what I could be, but I didn't really say anything. And then when I thought I was going to transition again, I thought, oh God, I should have said something then. But now I think about it, it's like, no, I think it was good that I wasn't able to, like, yeah.
Oh my God, there's like so many things there, my friend. I've been doing this for a long time. And also, I traveled the world for trans rights. I did a lot of work really trying to get people to see us as humans, but transsexuals, I never advocated like for all what's happening today. It's why I try to separate from that, because it's so and also when I started doing all this, there was no social media, dude. Like it was like, thank God there wasn't. Really, these kids are being indoctrinated. There is no remember, my vantage point is from here of 30 years of experience.
Well, you studied it from the start, right? So
yeah,
you face like genuine discrimination beyond 100%. Anything that people could. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about what it was like back then?
Well, what is like? I got discrimination probably my whole life, especially being a youngster and being very masculine little girl, and being called names when you're a kid, and I was that fighter kid and blah blah blah. Like, and then I was a sports girl, and then I was in athletics, and so I got teased for being masculine woman, and being a dyke, and then being a lesbian, and getting my ass honestly physically beat up for being gay, and I could just go on and on and on. So as I transitioned into being a man, I lost all my communities. I was with the gay women's community 30 something years ago. They all hated me. They called me a traitor. It was like I lost community there, and it was just one thing after another I struggled to get, but I just knew this was the thing. And of course, people. This is the interesting thing, Sascha, is that I felt more like the LGBT community was that back then was more hateful towards me and my transition than the outside world was. And I feel the same today, that it's the actual community that hates me and not the outside world, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense, because I guess back then they would have seen you as like some sort of traitor to the cause of like lesbianism, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what they said. I was a traitor. The funny thing about that is that moving fast forward 15 or 20 years ago, many of those gay women said that they wanted to transition, the ones who, pushed against me. And I thought, that's interesting. Weren't you the same one who was calling me a traitor like 20 years ago? It's very interesting to watch things roll. And that's why I knew something's wrong. These people are getting involved in something that's an ideology and not an actual. That's why they say that they're like, I don't have a mental disorder. I'm like, it's not normal for a woman to want to be a man. Like, what are you talking about? 100% it's a disorder, dude.
Well, the gender identity thing is relatively new, right? It's like it's always been. I'm trying to, because I've been looking through all the gender papers, and it's a mess. I've been trying to work, like it's all of the theories are a mess. But I've been trying to work out like what the original one. So when you transitioned, it was like, what was the going theory on it?
Well, basically, there was a structure, which I like to call gatekeeping, right? Or safekeeping. So we had a structure. I was one of the very first here in Los Angeles to do it. There was nothing. There was no internet. There was really nothing happening back then. So we really had to dig around with my therapist, who also didn't even understand it. So really just kind of trying to find rules and regulations. There wasn't. It was the Wild West of transitioning. So eventually my therapist and I found an endocrinologist, which is somebody who gives you the hormones. And I went to him, and he basically was like 80 years old, dude. And he had been transitioning men to women. So he worked with male to female, because that was always in the forefront of this. It was always men transitioning to women. You really didn't see women transitioning to men. And he told me, I've never done this before. He literally used the words, "You will be my guinea pig." I'm just like, well, at least he was honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I can laugh now, but dude, I was shaking in my boots. I'm like, this is crazy. What am I doing? Like, but I did it, and I was literally an experiment. There was nothing. There was no, like, you couldn't look at pictures of other trans guys and, share our top surgery scars and, all the insane. To me, it feels very I'm going to use the word culty. It feels very culty to me now. It feels like I don't have scars on my chest, by the way. I found a doctor who could do a surgery that didn't leave scars because I wanted to blend in the world. So when I went to the beach or I went to the gym and I had my shirt, no one ever knew that I was a transsexual person, right?
Yeah.
This is what I don't understand what's going on today. It's like these young girls becoming men or boys, whatever, have scars that are insane, dude.
It seems like they're very geometric as well. Like they've got like they've got kind of like God, it's bad to say, but they have got very geometric pecs.
They totally do. Because literally the doctor just goes in and lops your boobs off, dude. And you're like, okay, you're good. Now you're trans. Like, it's literally the scar of being trans now. I'm like, oh man, it's so sad. I'm going to tell you, these girls are going to change their mind in 5 or so years and be left with scars that will remind them of being indoctrinated into a cult. Seriously.
No, it is. I mean, and I think as well, a lot of them assume, I guess a lot of them, because I assumed that maybe you did have the scars and then you just kind of grew hair over. I think a lot of them just assume you grow hair over them and then people forget they're there. Like, because I've met some people who were thinking about it, and I think, thank God, they're not going to do it. But that's what they assumed. They were like, oh, you just grow a hairy chest and then you can't see the scars. I'm pretty sure scar tissue can't grow hairs on it.
That's right. There you go. Also, some of these kids aren't really even, so it's so sloppy, Sascha, because they're just not even telling these kids how to administer testosterone. My doctor took me step by step. For 6 months, I went back and he taught me eventually how to inject it. These kids are going to clinics where in 20 minutes having, these sort of indoctrination meetings, and then they get a prescription for testosterone. And they tell them to go home and look on YouTube to look how to administer the testosterone, which is so dangerous. If you don't understand, air bubbles in the syringe, there's so many things that could go wrong.
With testosterone, do you always have to inject it? Because obviously, with I got prescribed patches. You can take pills. There's a lot of different types of estrogen. Yeah.
That's right. 100% you can. But the problem with those kind of things is lower. Like patches are lower testosterone. So I'm old school. I just been shooting it in my butt for 30 years. I just go rant. Now I'm just like rant.
So when you got it, was that like, what was the process? Did you just have to convince him, hey, I really want to do this? And I guess back then it was unheard of. So it was almost, I don't know. This is the great thing. I had to go to therapy for 2-3 years, and the therapist had to work with me for 2 to 3 years. She had to determine that I had gender dysphoria, whatever. The guidelines were a little bit messy back then, but I think 2 to 3 years of every week going to therapy, talking about it, and she determines whether or not that she writes a paper to the endocrinologist that states that, I believe Buck has gender dysphoria and he should be administered testosterone. And then, it's a stepping stone. It's not 20 minutes at Planned Parenthood and then you get testosterone on the internet and then you're just like, it's very, very methodical. And also, we didn't transition children back then, dude. That was never even heard of. I thought I'm under the impression that the conditions until recently were always that you had to have lived in your original gender for a while because just on a basic critical thinking level, without any medical knowledge whatsoever, you can just be like, well, how would you know? If you haven't been one thing, how can you know what? If you haven't, even on a sexual level, if you haven't had sex as one thing, how do you know that you don't want to be being an adult is more about just the way you look.
Brilliant, dude. I mean, that's it right there. You 100%. You cannot tell. A child before puberty has no idea who they are, number one. Number two, you got to let kids figure out things before they decide. But you just said everything right there. That's how we can punch a hole in all of their theories. Because remember, this is all theory-based. It's not science-based because they don't look at the CAS review. They don't look at any of the things that have been going on that we have been. And then WPATH, the World Professional Organization of Wingnuts, literally lies about everything, dude. And they're, they have an agenda.
Big leaks, right? That they were just fudging all the data because it seems like it's a soft science and they just want to keep it in soft science territory. Anytime hard science comes out, they just say, oh, don't look at that. That's right nonsense.
Yeah, that's right wing. Oh, it's all right wing people that hate. Somebody made a great point today on X. I think they said, "Do you notice that there's no right leaning non-binary people?" I'm like, you're right. They're all liberal. So how is that? Then how is it? Because if it was a normal thing, then we'd have non-binary people all throughout both spaces,
Yeah.
you know, conservative, liberal, all of it. Right.
No, we kind of, yeah, you're right, actually. I've never really thought about that. So I've got to the second question. What do you, we've kind of already covered this, but I guess a bit more, is what do you make of the current trans movement?
Oh, yeah. Well, 100%. I believe that it's an indoctrination. I'm not part of that. That's why I consider myself a transsexual. I have removed myself from that so-called community. I believe that they are cult-like. I'm not going to call them a cult, but they are cult-like. I think it's scary. I think it will come crashing down, and everyone who has supported it will be embarrassed as hell. But the problem I have with anyone, an adult can do whatever they want to. Join a cult. I don't really care. But the problem I have is when you start putting young people in that. And the young people, we're having the young people do the dirty work, right? The young people are the ones yelling at us and calling us names and you know, like totally doxing us. And, you know, so there's some scary adults. There really are. There are scary, evil adults who are running this space. And it has nothing to do with being trans at all. It has everything to do with an appearance or an ideological space, for sure.
What do you think? I've been thinking about this a lot in the last couple of days. Is what do you actually think the motive is for these adults to be doing this?
Oh.
It's bizarre.
I think it's a fetish focused space. You know, my background comes from, you know, working in a sexual industry here in America.
Pornographic industry,
yeah,
right?
I was in the pornographic industry 20 something years ago. And then with that, I was married to a dominatrix, and we did domination work.
I was married to a
Dude, you wait till my book
Yes.
comes out. The stuff is coming out. Dude, I go deep in my book. So my dominatrix wife was very famous here in America, and that's a famous story, dude.
Well, mine wasn't as famous, but I was.
Oh no, dude, it's famous. I'll just give you a little hint. She was, you know, the guy who became a woman, who's the Wachowski brothers, who did The Matrix, and he became a she. Well, that was all during the time I was married to her, and it's all, dude, that is deep. Wait till you read that chapter of my book.
We take the red pill or the other. I don't know what the black pill, the black and gray, black and red pill.
It's hilarious. Oh my God, dude! I swear, my life. I can't believe here I am at 62. But wait, what we were saying? Oh, so I do believe it's fetish oriented, and I do believe a lot of these people, because I was around it. I watched these cross-dressers come into what we call the dungeon, right? And you know, I'm cool with stuff like that. That's like a therapy, really. It really is. It's sexual therapy for people who are having fetishes to do certain kinds of things, and it's a very consensual space.
Outside of that it becomes an issue.
That's right. When you and I have to see it on the internet, and then they're doing weird stuff and calling themselves trans, and I'm like, no, you're a cross-dresser fetishist who's throwing it in our faces. So we all have, because you're getting a boner by doing it, dude. That's why they do it. They totally get off on it.
Kind of thing.
100%. And that's who's running the trans community, as far as I'm concerned now.
I mean, it would make sense as well. And then even the whole, because there is, I don't want to be like, because they're obviously in the community, but there is an element where I think people play into their BDSM fetish a tiny bit on the internet, where they're like, they're calling them all of these names and stuff. And it's like, I think that's what they want you to do. Like there is this,
Yes. You hit it on the head. I would see them all the time. They get off on it, dude. They get off when you call them names. They love it when you say these things to them. And, you know, and now we're coming to talk about this AGP thing, the autogynephilia, which was not part of our community. And on some level, we sort of never really talked about that. But as I think about it more and more, I'm like, oh, it makes a lot of sense. That's a fetishist cross-dresser who's in love with themselves. And that's what they would come to the dungeon to do. So they'd be businessmen, like high profile, you know, like lawyers and stuff. And they come to the dungeon and put women's clothes on and have this whole fantasy about being a woman, and then put the man's clothes on and go back out and do the world.
I guess the problem I have, I guess, with AGP is that it has such blurred lines between, okay, so there's the businessman who would do that, but then there's the businessman who might just want to be beaten up. And then where do you this is the problem. It's got such blurred lines. It's really hard to define. I guess we'll skip ahead a few questions and go back. But what is your take on the AGP? Because I find the Blanchard description to not make any sense, to be completely honest.
It's hard. It's hard to really understand it. It really, me too. Even though I love him, I think he's great and genius, and everybody hates him in the trans community because he's saying.
I think what he says makes a lot of sense, but I find it really hard to define. Like his definition of it seems too broad and too narrow at the same time. If that makes sense,
right? Yeah. So in my from what I get from it, it's basically the love of self sexually. Okay, so sexually, you're picturing yourself as this woman, and you are picturing yourself having a sexual experience as this woman, and that's not trans. That's not transsexual. Dude. I don't picture myself.
So that's what I guess the problem I have it with is everyone's taken it to be like these are the only two types, and it's I don't think that's true. I don't see that. I mean, it's not my lived experience. Like if I was AGP, I would just come out and say it. I've come out and said everything.
Right.
But like I can't relate or connect to it in the way that anyone's described it thus far.
That's right.
Unless we do the really broad thing and we go all of glam rock was AGP, David Bowie is AGP. And then I'm just like, okay, well, I guess if ever... Well, then it just means every man ever.
I mean, on some level, there's fetishes are okay. That's the other thing. These people have screwed it up because fetishes are okay. There's nothing wrong with having a fetish. What's not okay is non-consensual and putting it in other people's faces and then co-opting what I have, right, which is an actual mental disorder. I don't fetish. I walk around as a man because I feel so much more comfortable this way, dude. Like, I don't feel comfortable. I lived 30 years of my life in the female space and 30 years of my life as a man. So I'm one of those people who've walked in both worlds pretty much half and half my life. But that being said, it's not sexually motivated. It's motivated for me to walk into rooms where people say, hey, Buck, and they don't say, hey, whatever, she or whatever, even though they do now, because now.
For me, as silly as it sounds, I think it was motivated, again, by escaping, but also because I have this weird obsession with learning new skills. Yeah. So it was just, okay, I have a whole new range of things to learn, so I can do that, and then that helps me escape from my problems. It wasn't the idea of this kind of the fetishistic part. I find quite hard to connect to.
Okay. That makes sense. I mean, again, that's your journey, right? That's what we have to look at. That's why your voice is so important, Sascha. I'm telling you, your voice is so important right now because you're going to say things that other guys are going to hear and they're going to relate to it, right? So what I heard from one of your interviews I just watched recently, I think it was GB in News or something, and you were talking about being more effeminate type man, and you got teased for it. And this is really an important, I was so happy you were talking about that. It is so important that we start to talk. There is an attack on men. There is 100% an attack on men and masculinity. And, why can't a man have whatever that femininity means? This is the part that I'm having a problem with. What does that mean to be a feminine man? So what were the things that people were saying to you?
When I was growing up, it was just kind of like I wasn't into sports. But then the other thing about that is literally no one in my family is into sports. None of the men, my dad, none of them. It's just not part of our kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then it was also, I had long hair. I looked like a god. My name is Sascha, which doesn't start things off on a great foot. But it's like I had that all throughout my childhood. Like people saying, I wasn't so interested in girls' things, but I wasn't interested in boys' things either.
Right.
So it's kind of like it's weird. I just got called feminine a lot because a lot of people just called me a she. And then I remember once in the supermarket when I was a kid, this woman said something like oh, your daughter is something. And I was like, I'm a boy. And then she went, oh, well, your mum's an idiot for calling you Sascha.
Adult. That's an adult.
Yeah, I know, right? It's crazy the way that people put this stuff. But I think, it's about like people just being a bit more sensitive about things doesn't mean like there's more ways to be a man than one. And I guess that leads me into my next question, which is what does manhood mean to you? Can I answer that question? I have no idea. I'm not a man. Okay. And I really want people to hear me right now. I am not trying to be a man. Okay. I'm trying to look like a man. I'm trying to walk the world as Buck. I want people to call me Mr. or he or, and I have no problem. People all do it. Okay. But to understand what it means to be a man, I could never tell you that. I was socialized as a female because I am a female. Right. And I think that's really an important part of the conversation that's being taken out by the trans activists. And that's where we have to have a red light come on, because why are they trying to hide it when I want to talk about it? Right.
right? And it's only made my journey much more solid. When you're honest with your own self, it's like alcoholism. When you learn that I was drinking because I was dealing with all this kind of, then you're like, you let go of the alcoholism because you're understanding. It's the same with transsexualism. When you understand sort of why this is, but I'm never going to be a man. I get that question my whole transition, dude. People have tried to slip me up. So what does it mean to be a man? Throw a baseball. Okay. Let's see if you throw it like a man. Like,
well, no, I meant it more in like a, okay,
no,
so I guess the way of asking that in a more meta way is that you pass very well. So you basically, you've been treated as both. What would you say on the surface level is the difference in being treated as both?
Great.
Yeah.
Great question. Great. The surface level. Oh my God, dude. Talk about that. I hate saying the word privilege because it's been overused now, but male privilege. There is no doubt in my mind. I can walk into spaces and I am treated in a whole other way because remember, I walked into spaces as a butch woman before. Hated me, dude. I would get stuff thrown at me. I would get like, oh my God, no, people hate butch women. So there's this weird dynamic that I was just like, feminine men, right? Butch women get the same treatment. And so now as a sort of just a dude walking into a space, you know, there is a much easier way for me to walk the world. So I wonder sometimes, are all these young girls at 15 and 16 wondering, is it going to be easier for me to be a man being less sexualized, which is true, right? I'm 100% less sexualized, or is it just easier to be, for some reason they think it's easier to be a man. And so I do think the way the world comes to men and women is, in my own eyes and my own experience, 100 times different than it is. It just feels easier for me too, I think, because my dysphoria is less, right? I'm not uncomfortable to walk into spaces and not I participate in the world where before I did not. I was drinking alcohol and doing drugs and being very distant to the world. Yeah.
And do you think, so the funny sort of thing is, a lot of the men who transition, even the young men, they end up like on OnlyFans or something like that. And it's almost like the girls who are transitioning are doing it to escape being involved, you know, to being looked at sexually. And the guys doing it are almost choosing it because they want to be looked at sexually. It's like an odd, it's an odd like grass is always greener kind of thing.
It's a great analogy right there, 100%. Now, remember, I did pornography, but I was in my, like, I think I was 40 when I did porn. So it's like, I'm like an old dude, but I've always looked really young for my age. So you know, people will push back on my porn. I don't even really like to, I don't discuss it out there because it was a very private space. And back when I did porn, it was DVDs and VHS, dude. And you had to go to the,
like a collector's item now again,
your DVD. I don't know what you did. It wasn't OnlyFans and you get your phone and anyone can be in porn now. And, you know, 16-year-old people are doing that, which is horrifying to me, dude. Horrifying. It's not an easy industry. People think they're going to get rich quick. You don't get rich unless you really just do it for a long time.
Thing, isn't it? It's like, and then we only hear about the small percentage of people who are getting rich from it. But most people are making like $50 a month at most, if they're lucky.
At most, if they're even doing that. And believe me, dude, the residue that can come from it, especially for a young person who doesn't know, can be lifelong. And it's why I think that is a very dangerous space for people to walk until they so understand what it really all means and to compartmentalize it. And I created a business. I had a very lucrative business from it, and move forward from that. Right. But that being said, as an adult, I made those choices, and as an older adult, not as a 16-year-old, even 18. Sorry, but you should not be doing that at 18. I do not believe that. Nope.
I mean, so do you think, because, I've always had this kind of idea that like the first people to cross a path, whether they get more, you know, hate for it or not, they'll reap bigger benefits. Do you see that kind of as a thing? Like, obviously you were quite new to it all. So you were kind of a unique person in the world in that way.
That's right.
It opens doors for you in a kind of abstract way that it won't for people who follow.
Nope.
So you think a lot of people who are doing it now are going to be disappointed by they don't get the same kind of access. Yeah.
That's right. And I see things they're doing that's really cringy beyond belief. These young girls are saying they're trans men like me, but they look like a girl. And then they're literally not doing any sort of, they still have breasts and they're doing gay. They're calling themselves gay men porn stars. So the gay men are getting pissed. They're like, wait a minute. I'm like, yeah, this is really smart and good. So you see, they're getting all twisted in their brains, dude. And like, what do you mean you're a gay man porn star? You're actually a girl with boobs and a vagina and like doing porn. Like, what are you talking about? So it's gotten, so yeah, because I did it, I was this person who did it before other people did it. I did reap benefits from it that nobody will ever reap from them. But because of that, I got to move into really speaking, and it brought me into my speaking career that brought me to all over the world, really, to talk about myself and I did change laws. I helped, the older transsexual world move forward in being able to get this medicine. And these newer generation have literally wiped those laws out. All the work us elders did back in the day, it's gone.
Do you think? Well, I mean, that's you kind of said it already, but do you think that they are pushing the trans movement back, aren't they? Quite
yes,
a lot.
100%, my friend. I mean, I say it all the time. I'm solid. I'm not going to lose anything. Nothing, dude. I did my transition. I'm done. The government's not going to touch me. I've been a very good citizen. I participate in the world. I'm not going to get harmed by any of this. But I will tell you that what they're doing here in America, and hopefully they do it in the UK, is they are pulling back on this. It needs to be. It needs to be pulled back on, because if not, we're never going to come back from it. We're not. It's a slippery slope, right? Once you slip all the way off the side, there's no coming back. So the President Trump had to do that. I don't care what anybody says. It's not transphobic. It's really reeling back to reality-based transitioning and what it means and why people need to have this medicine.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. What do you think would be appropriate, the right reasons for someone to transition?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so first off, the right reasons are because you have been diagnosed with something called gender or sex dysphoria. You have spent years in therapy trying to figure out if this is the right route for you. This is not on a whim. This is something that you have to commit to for the rest of your life. Okay, seriously, you can detransition, but it will hurt you. But that's why you have to commit to this. So that's why only adults should ever be in this space. We should never be doing this to young people. We need to have a sort of thing. So the only reason why somebody would do something like this is because they lived a life prior to this and it didn't work out for them. Dude, I can tell you so many bad things that happened to me, but not that I'm making a complaint about it. I think it's important those things happen to me because it really put me in a space to know that, I needed 30 years of sobriety to understand that drinking and alcohol and all that came from, and then people will push back on me. Well, Buck, do you want these young people to go through drinking? And I said, nope, that's not what I'm saying. They need to go through life experiences and have experiences. How can, what you said earlier today, earlier on the podcast, how can someone know that they are in the wrong body, like they like to call it, or trans or want to be a man or woman, if they haven't lived that life? You can't. A 10-year-old doesn't know anything about anything, dude.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like, it sounds mean to say, but I feel like people put too lower quality on the idea of suffering. People have to.
Excellent.
Everyone wants a fast pass to
Excellent.
happiness. I don't think that exists. I think you have to go through you have to go through some shit before you get there. I had to go, I got married at 19. I made a huge mistake and I went through 10 years of hell, but now I'm really happy. And it's just kind of, but it's like, I had to go through that to get here. Like people want to just come out of the gate and be like, why am I sad? I'm going to take all of the pills I can and I'm going to do everything for my body and then I'll be happy. And it's like, it just doesn't work like that. You have to.
No.
It sounds mean, but you have to suffer a bit.
It doesn't sound mean, dude. Suffering is look at any Buddhism, look at any of it. They talk about suffering. It's human. It's actual human nature to suffer. I don't care if you think transitioning a kid, they will suffer down the road because when you give that child puberty blockers and then they lose all their sexual functioning, they have no sexual attraction. I've interviewed a lot of detransitioners and I've interviewed them on puberty blockers, dude. Their life is miserable. They're like, they would have just left me. I was a gay man and now I don't even have a penis. And I mean, I'm crying during these interviews because I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now? Right. And they think it's okay to do this. No, let the kid figure it out. So no, suffering is the reason I'm a solid human being today, dude. And I'm focused and I'm successful on every level of my life. And if I didn't go through all that suffering, right, I would not be this person. And so I hate when people say, well, you were a trans kid, Buck. No, I was not. There is no such thing. I was a butch little girl girl who beat up the boys.
Oh, so you were the school bully.
I was totally the bully. No, because they would tease me, right? And my dad would be like, "Don't you dare let them do that. Knock them out." So, you know.
but no, it's very true what you said. I just don't see, I was talking about my niece saying about, she said, "Oh, I want to be a boy." And then she ran around and picked her nose and played with it. I have a feeling, just maybe, that these people can't be trusted.
You think? Oh my God. Dude, who wants to touch little kids like that? It's creepy. That's what I'm telling you. W Path, full of wingnuts. They let eunuchs in there. Then they renamed the other people that like little kids, and they name them Maps, and then they keep rearranging it. So that's what I'm telling you. It went off the deep end, dude.
Yeah. Well, it's like I think it was in the 60s or 70s in England, we had something called the Pedophile Information Exchange, and it became like an actual company. And I feel like they just, those people exist. They were willing to start a company. They were willing to be public when they thought it was okay. They're going to find some other way of doing it. And, obviously I'm not painting the whole trans community with that brush, but these people exist. And if you give them an incentive, they will go to it. Like, they will find a way to get into that.
They're
sort of
desperate.
society.
They are desperate. Now, that being said, I feel sad for people who have that thing, dude. That must just actually suck to be attracted to little kids. Like, what? Like, oh man, we do need to figure out what's going on there. But those people belong nowhere near anybody in society.
I agree with the whole. Like, it's very sad for them, but they need to be removed from society.
That's right.
There is no solution.
Right.
Like, there's no
solution to it. They know that. Yeah. Is a solution to people like me who is struggling with this gender kind of space, right? And wanting to be a guy. The solution is let me go through it. Let me go through the pain until I'm old enough to understand, okay, dude, we're going to give you this medicine and you don't get to turn around. And that is why nobody, even to me, under the age of 25 can understand what that even means, right? There is no turning back. You're not going to get a second chance once you take these hormones and cut your breasts off and grow a beard and get bald on your head. And, there's things that just, even if I stop taking hormones and go back, I'm never going to look like a woman again, ever. Yeah. Ever.
And that's so you think, if a doctor prescribes it, they should wait till like the age of 25 minimum.
I do. And people, of course, the trans community, they hate me so much, dude. I love it. I live for it. You're never going to shut me up. So no, I totally do. I just do not believe 25 is still a little iffy to me. It just is. But, we got to find a space there that, that we can all agree on. And I don't think 18 is really sufficient. I think 25, you're kind of coming into adulthood there and really more understanding things.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think as well the underlying check for other mental health stuff. So, I was going through some major stuff with PTSD and the situation I was in. They just asked me what color my school bag was. This is, again, I have to add that this was Japan, and Japan is, despite what people think, a very capitalist society.
Oh, it is.
So if you have the money for it, they will just do it. They don't really care. So I have to add that they were just kind of like, okay, but they still went through the questions, and the standard questions like, what color was your school bag? Did you like female things? Things I didn't even remember honestly, I didn't even remember the answers to what color my school bag is, so I just put purple. Because I was like, well, that's obviously the question that they want. They want the answer they want. Yeah, that's
right. They want the more female color. I've been to, you lived in Japan for like 10 years?
So I was on and off for 12 years, and then 3 years. It's like my second home.
No, it's really one of my favorite places in the world. I go there. I've been there like 5 times. I love it.
In the world, hands down. Like it made it all bearable. Actually, just being there, and no, I miss it.
Wow.
All my friends are over there as well. One day I'll go back. I'm kind of scared to go back, but I think it'll be fine. It's just
where your ex is? Is your ex?
Yeah. And the way I left was quite like running away, leaving. So it's kind of like going back is a bit like, should I go to the embassy first and be like, am I going to get in trouble if I go in?
Oh, no, dude, I think you need to take a little break. That's really smart of you. Get your head, situated. It feels like you are really moving forward, though. It does. You feel, just a little bit I know of you and watch you and have talked to you a little. You seem really grounded, and you seem really, how long ago was it that you left Japan?
Almost 3 years now. So
great.
I was a wreck. I was a wreck in the first year. I was in the media. And then the second year, I was still kind of, even when I was going on those podcasts, I was still pretty mentally ill. And then, I still am now. But like,
we all are, dude.
Yeah.
It's all good.
But I was worse than I looked. I mean, I think during that time, I don't drink nearly as much now, but when I was on the Jack Jules podcast,
Yeah.
not many people know this, but I had about 12 beers before I went on.
Wow. How did you, I can't believe you functioned.
I have this gift or maybe curse that I don't slur no matter how much I drink. So I can be blackout drunk and people will be like, you were drunk? It's like, it's a problem.
Wow, that is a problem actually. When you get to that,
it's a curse, I think.
But you know what? Somehow the universe got you out of that situation, dude. They did. And I think your suffering is going to do something really great for the world. I really do believe it. You're using your suffering to do good things where some people wouldn't necessarily do that. But I really do appreciate that you speak out a lot about this stuff and the indoctrination and how you got into that, because someone's going to hear you, dude. Whoever it is, someone's going to hear you and say, wait a minute, that's me.
That's what it's all about, right? It's just about helping individual people or as many people as possible, and each person matters, and each person slowly creates a ripple that creates another ripple, and it grows. And it's the same way we got here into this madness. Yes. We can get out of it in the exact same way.
That's a great point. And, because sometimes I just feel guilty because I was watching this happen 10 or so years ago and people were saying, oh, there's this thing you can do with kids. And honestly, I always admit it. I was like, wow, that's actually great. You mean we could actually let kids? And so then people were started throwing papers and research at me. And they're like, dude, no, it's not okay. And then I was like, oh my God, this is actually insane. So I had at first been okay with kids and transitioning. And then when I started to do my due diligence and read everything and sort of see how they don't want you to see everything, the trans community. They just want you to see a one straight line, trans kids are kids, and none of the other stuff, because they know when everybody starts to be awakened from it, they'll literally be like, nope, that's child abuse.
Yeah. And why do you think that, I guess it's a hard question to answer, but why do you think that it comes to that point where people who, know nothing about it feel so different? Why is it? Because of guilt from the gay rights movement? What is it that makes people so okay with it all?
Such a great question, man. And again, it's a very liberal space. I know in the UK, you guys have liberal labor and
sometimes we're California, sometimes we're not. It depends on
hilarious. That's so funny. Here we're real divided in our sort of Republican and Democrat, liberals and liberals and conservatives. I'm super middle ground, dude. I was always a hardcore left liberal person, but when this stuff came up, I'm like, I'm out of here, dude. You're all fucking weirdos.
I always thought I was liberal, but then it got all confusing and I didn't know what was happening.
It's not liberal.
The right. It's like, I don't really like these people that much either.
It's all us. We're all aligning because we're all middle ground people. We just want to people live their lives and have good lives and all of that, but leave the children alone. But so no, it's a really, really great question. I don't even know how to answer. I don't know. I just don't know. I feel very confused about everything, and I'm not sure how we got here. I think why liberal people tend to be, because that's the liberals always feel like they have to do things in this way that's good, right? Good versus evil, right? Like they think what they're doing is good when they're not sitting down. I've lost a lot of friends, by the way, through this whole thing, because I'm like, nope, I'm not part of that. And they're like, wow, you're a right-wing Nazi. I'm like, what?
The people that call Nazis these days, I don't think Hitler would want to be my
partner, the family, they're Jewish, right? We put our kid is in a Jewish school. I'm like, what? Do you know who you're calling a Nazi? It's what are you? That's how insane.
My dad grew up in the Blitz, and people have called me that. It's I've heard firsthand stories about him being bombed by.
Oh my God, dude! It's actually that's how you can just tell they're off their rockers. Yeah. They really are off their. They are so mean and angry, and these are the liberals. That's why they're not liberal. We need to really find a new word for them, and they're just not liberal, dude. They're I think they call them woke over here. I don't know if you call them that there, but they're just really
here. Everyone is it, but I feel like the English sensibility is like, I want to feel superior to you, so I have to be moral. And I feel like that's also a little bit in LA and stuff like that. But
That's right.
I don't actually know if they're left, like they'll be right wing one second and left wing the next. Whenever it's, as long as they can be morally superior. That's
You hit it on the head.
Yeah,
it's morally superior. You're right, dude. But how is transitioning children morally superior? Are you people insane? Those are little. I have a kid, dude. I have a 12-year-old, right? And I'm adopting a kid, and like I just love kids. I coach, football, and I'm just around the whole thing. And kids are awesome, dude. And I'm like, no, kids aren't trans. Kids totally play with gender and they do all kinds of stuff and they don't care about, who's this or who's that. And I'm like, you people are pushing these kids into these spaces. It's actually pathetic.
It's just weird. It doesn't, there's no logical way that it makes any sense whatsoever. To take a kid seriously, when they're like 6 or 7 and they say, I'm a boy or I'm a girl, whatever. Yeah. They're not serious people. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Serious.
Dude, they have a thing at the hospital here in New Jersey. I just did a thing on where they're giving the paper to the new mom of the newborn baby to pick its gender, like to actually male, female, transgender, male, female, or gender queer. This is a newborn baby. I'm like, okay, if we don't actually we can all laugh, but dude, if we don't put a stop to this, it is actually so insane. I don't know if there's coming back from it. Like,
no, it's gotta stop. It's so. What? I mean, the NHS did just. I post that thing today. The NHS did just say that you can no longer change gender because, the reason they said it though, when you read into it, it's like, oh, because it's messy for your records, not because it doesn't make any sense. It's like some bureaucrats be like this. Okay, if we can get the bureaucrats to be like this, that works. That's fine as long as the end result is.
Oh my God, dude! I mean, they have their stuff all mixed up. These people are mixed up, right? It's just about paperwork. It's not about making sure these kids grow up healthy. Like,
hold on a second. This is confusing for me. I need to file this somewhere.
You're ruining my job right now.
I laugh, but that's insane that they're. But I thought the whole point of trans was you were supposed to pick your gender for yourself. So why is your adult, if your mum's picking it, it's just the doctor, it's no different to the doctor deciding, surely.
That's right. The whole assigned female at birth. Like, no, you weren't assigned to anything except a dipshit. So that being said, like, no, that and then they started to co-opt. That word comes from intersex language, right? When people are born with, ambiguous genitalia.
In that they do actually choose, right?
Yes, that's right.
There is a choice made for them, which
that's right.
But it's such a small percentage of the population. But I can understand why they'd be a bit pissed off by that, because if you were both, if I found out I was both as a kid and someone chose for me, I'd be like, what the fuck? I got to choose. I would have wanted to choose. But
that's right.
That's a very small percentage of people.
It's like 0.00000 something, dude. It's like, no. And so, they co-opted the intersex space. They co-opted transsexualism. They're telling you biology isn't real. Biology is a social construct, taking over women's spaces, men in high heels. Like, no, I'm a woman. Like, no, dude. I was totally all on, like, totally going after those guys. Nope. Trans women are men. They're males. They're not women. Trans women are trans women. If they would just say that, like how I just say, I'm a female, dude. Like, who cares? Like, nobody cares, right? But the fact that they're so adamant to say they're women, that's when it was like, okay, game on now. That's a misogynist.
Well, I mean, what do you think that I genuinely don't understand what the problem is with using the men's toilets for, like, it's not that, like, okay, it's a bit dirty. But if there was a trans woman in there doing their makeup, I don't think they're not going to go up and like attack them. Right. It's just not going to happen unless you're maybe in like the middle of bumfuck nowhere, and then
that's right.
Probably just in danger being trans there in general. Like, it's it's not a
dude. We have forever navigated that. Okay, I didn't always look this way. In my early transition, I was very butch, but my voice was different. You could kind of tell maybe I was a woman. I had to navigate that. Sometimes I would hold my piss for like 10 hours, dude. Like, suffer a little bit, kids. Like, you know what? No, you don't get to pee in the woman's room. Hold it or go around the corner and pull your dick out and piss on the tree, dude. Any other time.
No, it's true. I don't know. Like, it just feels, especially in like metropolitan, it just doesn't feel, you're not going to be in danger. I don't understand what the thing is.
You're not.
What's going to happen, especially like the very masculine ones.
Yes.
we know you're a dude, guys.
We know you're a dude.
Yeah,
Get over yourself, dude.
do
Like
your
that.
makeup on the sink. It's fine. Like, no one cares.
I mean, come on, man. So many of them now. I come from an old school space. I'm around the actual real transsexual women, dude, where they look so like beautiful and like you would never know, right? Like the Thailand girls and like just gorgeous, right? Like no one's misgendering them and they can use the lady toilet because no one cares. But the new ones that are like literally linebackers in like, you know, big shoes. No, I pissed off, dude. I'm not being nice anymore. I'm not nice anymore. And because they caused it.
No, you're right about you are right about that. Like if someone really, and it feels like it's people like, oh, you're being superficial. It's like, no, you're not. I think it's about effort. I think it's about effort and the way you hold yourself. Like if someone goes in and they've put enough effort and they just use the ladies' bathroom, they don't go on about it, and no one's going to notice. Like the chance of anyone even it being a thing is incredibly unlikely. It's because it's been made this fight that it's a thing.
Dude, I'm telling you, I've been doing this for a long time. It never happened. And the ones who didn't pass didn't use the women's room. They knew that they didn't pass and they would go in the dude's room. And no dude cares. Go to the men's room. They don't care. Okay. Dudes will let chicks in the men's room. They don't. They just don't care.
Let anyone in. It's not the same space for us. Anyone can come in. It doesn't matter.
Because it's a different space. They're not getting sexually assaulted in there. Women do get sexually assaulted in the women's room. And it's a space that women have fought for forever, dude. I was living as a woman once. I fought for those spaces. I was all about the feminist movement and really helping women move forward in spaces. And for these are men who want to be women. Okay. I am a female who wants to be a male. Like, let's just get that straight out there. So you're not a woman. So you don't get to just come into the space and say, I'm a woman, get out of my way. That's misogyny beyond belief, dude. And so we have to call it what it is. And the fact that people are just like, trans women are women and we have to let them in the bars and we have to I'm just like, what? Why can't they first off, why can't they create their own space? Why? Create your own space. Create a trans bathroom then if you have to be.
Well, exactly. I like I mean, my favorite joke I heard about that was that the whole thing is a conspiracy by the toilet companies because they want to make everyone an extra bathroom.
That's genius. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it.
It's big water closet that's been doing this.
But also, dude, I've traveled the whole world, as you clearly have, Brian. There are many places in the world where they just have a toilet. It's called a toilet. It doesn't even say man or woman, right? You just go to the toilet on the plane. On the plane, everyone shares the toilet. So it's just a way for them to push this sort of agenda that trans women are marginalized, and the other thing they love to say is the unaliving, right? Like, oh, the high rate of unaliving. It's not true. It is not true at all. There's ideation, but there's ideation and, to want to off yourself in many community spaces.
I was going to ask, actually, it's a good question, is because I've read a lot of the studies and it's really hard to find anything that isn't self-reporting. Is there actually any evidence that it's
no?
Nope.
None, dude. Nope. We have ideation. I've had it as a young person, whatever. That happens, and that's normal. I think on some level, say it's normal, but it happens with young people. They get, especially today with social media and the bullying and all the other nonsense. But that being said, it is not a high rate of that. And they do have no studies of it. It's not happening. And this idea that if a child doesn't get their medication, they're going to off themselves. Well, that right there should mean that they shouldn't get the medication, because that means they're mentally ill. Yeah,
they're already unstable in the first place. It doesn't make sense to. So it's so backwards. Also, kids. I mean, obviously it's tragic, and kids do sometimes do that, but it's so unbelievably unlikely for a kid to do that because it's such a big thing to. It's not. It is a big thing to say, but it's not a big thing to say. It's a huge thing to do. It's a very different thing. Yeah.
Big difference to go through with it. To think it and go through with it are two different things. And there is no high rate of that in this community, nor will a child. That was that whole thing that they were doing to manipulate parents. If you don't let little Bobby become little Susie, little Bobby is going to off themselves. Okay, as a parent, what do you think a parent's going to do? They're going to be like, let's give them the shots, right now, because they want to save their kid. It's sick. It's actually sick, dude.
It really is. It's the whole thing is just it's almost because they're trained to say it by, like, the imprinting of,
Yes.
this is what will happen if you, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, that's what will happen. Well, I'm going to kill myself then if I don't.
That's
like,
right.
yeah, it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's right. Oh my God, dude. I mean, the thing is that we all know this, right? All of us in this space know this. All of us we've seen studies, we've seen all kinds of things about what's happening here, yet they continue to move forward with this ideology. That's the part where I'm really having a hard time with it, dude. Like, where is all the people with the normal brains going, we need to shut this down? I'm at a loss for words because it doesn't make sense.
It feels like it's happened in England slowly, and hopefully it does what it always. Well, it used to be 10, 15 years ago that culture trickled down from here to America.
Yeah.
It seems to have gone the other way recently, but hopefully this happens with this as well. Is that it just trickles down, because as much as the social aspect's still here, and it's an issue on the legislation side and the government side, it feels like sanity's already won, and then we're just arguing about the details now.
That makes sense. Sure. That's why Trump had to just come in and dismantle everything like a bull in a china shop. And everybody's like, oh, this is the part that's so funny to me, the trans community, right? Everyone ran out and got their passport. Would he, like, are you an idiot? Like, why would you go get
the question about that, because did they make you renew it? Or what?
First off, let me tell you something. I would not go get my passport right now, because you're going to get the gender marker you don't want. Mine says male, dude. It said male for 20 years. I've had all my paperwork changed. It's not going back to female. And even if it did, dude, I'll tell you right now, who cares? Aha, right? Like, I still travel.
Like, I thought about that. Is I was like, did Trump just make everyone renew their passport at the same time? Like, that seems like a real headache.
None of these people have their passports. None of them. All of a sudden now they need their passport. That's the point. Like, why are you going to get your passport? Why don't you wait 4 years when Trump's out and go get your passport? Because it'll probably be okay back then. But right now you're an idiot. And I think they're just trying to they're trying to feel marginalized. They're trying to feel like a victim, because all I see is idiots on the internet crying about, I'm like, you're 40. You're crying about your passport.
Okay, that because my passport doesn't expire for 10 years. So I was getting confused. Was like, did Trump just make everyone at, the passport issuing office work overtime? We're
gonna get rid of all the trannies. No, but they're all the trannies are idiots, dude. They're like, I'm gonna get my passport now, even though I know I'm not gonna get the right gender marker.
I'm not going anywhere, and I don't need it. I've never needed it before, but I'm gonna buy it right now just so I can be misgendered. Like,
dude, it's comical. It's actually, they deserve it. They deserve all of it, man. Go down. You're all going down. It's, so yeah, I think on some level it's going down, but they're not going to let it go down easy. They're going to put up a fight for sure.
I mean, and okay, this constant thing that comes up is, we'll get to the last question soon, of who is killing trans people? Like, they need to stop. Who's doing it?
See, because first off, let me just say something. Nobody's killing trans people. It's not happening. Secondly, it's the trans people who are killing people, dude. Like, seriously, here in America, we have you can't write this shit, dude. It's a comedy show. There's a trans vegan cult. It's an actual real thing. They're trans women vegans. There's 8 of them, and they went across the United States and killed like 5 people, dude. I'm not kidding.
I'm gonna look into this after.
Look it up. Trans vegan cult. They're called the Zizians. Zizian. Dude, it's gonna make your head pop off. So there's number one.
Family in 30 years.
So the trans people aren't getting killed. The trans people are killing people. Then we have wingnut crazy trans ladies who are literally like serial killers. We have like 5 of them here. And then I'm kidding. And then then we have these prisoners who are totally wingnut murderers, and then they become women in prison, and then they get transferred to women's prison. No, dude, it's South Park.
And that is, okay, I just want to confirm, because people who I've spoken to in real life is like, that's not really happening. That is really happening. It's a thing that happens.
It's really happening. I've done videos on it, dude. No, and if you need any information, reach out. I'll give you all the links you need, dude, because we need to expose this. That it is the other way around, okay? The wingnut, and it's trans women who are doing it. I think we had 5 school shootings here. Disgusting. And all 5 of those school shootings, they were either non-binary, identified, or trans-identified. So yeah, so let's talk about that, people. But no one wants to talk about that. They want to talk about how marginalized the trans people are, which is complete BS, dude. How could I live like this for 30 years, 32 years, and have the happiest? I'm a happy tranny. Look at me, dude. I'm sad.
Well, you're happy. We've been laughing the whole time.
The whole time we've been laughing. It's so good.
Okay, so final question is, if you could say one thing to your younger self, what would it be?
Oh, if I could say one thing to my younger self, I would say just keep doing it, because I was a little asshole, dude. I wouldn't change a thing. You think when you're younger, you got it so bad. And I look back and you know what, man, every mistake, every opportunity I had made me this person. So I would say just hang on, dude, because you're going to get there to where your life is so awesome. You're not even going to believe it. But all of the shit I did and all of it, like I said earlier, there is no way I would change it for the world right now. I think it just made me this the person who can stand up and say things to a whole community and be hated by them. I mean, to be hated by them is actually kind of cool on some level.
No, it is, man. It's like everything you're doing is so impressive. It's like it takes a lot of bravery to just go for it, especially from everything you've been through as well.
Oh, I appreciate that. But, I don't feel, what I feel like? I feel like I want to hang out with people like you. I don't want to hang out with those people. Those aren't my people, right? I like people. I'm a people person. Like, just because you're trans or whatever I'm not even trans, dude. I'm a transsexual. I'm a chick who wants to look like a dude. Like, whole other level, dude. Like, that's the whole thing is like, you're supposed to integrate back into the world as a transsexual, and you're not supposed to live off of your disorder. And you know what I mean? So I appreciate you saying that, but I don't feel brave. You know what I feel like? I feel like I'm one of those old ass dudes who are like over it with the kids. And I'm like, sit down. Let grandpa tell you.
Let me tell you something about discrimination.
Right on, dude. That's powerful, actually. That's age. Right on.
No, they're great. And where can people find you? Where can people learn more?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you can go to my website, Buck Angel, or X. I'm Buck Angel. Instagram, Buck Angel. My YouTube channel is Buck Angel Official. So thank you, friend. I do appreciate you so much. And thank you for all the work you're doing. And your struggle is going to make you that much more powerful, by the way. So thank you.